Welcome to lecture number 7. In this lecture, we'll cover the following topics: div tag, span tag, and working with background properties in CSS. The first two tags we have already covered in the miscellaneous topics under the heading block level elements and inline elements. But we will have a quick recap regarding these two tags as well. The first one is div tag. The div HTML element is the generic container for flow content, and it has no effect on the content or layout until styled in some way using CSS. The div element will not be visible or will not show on the web page if you haven't styled it using a background color or border property or any other similar property which can be capable of showing the div on the web page. We have a simple example here. Inside h1, we have a text which is further nested inside the div. Now, in order to show this div on the web page, we can style it using a simple background color property. Next is span tag. The span HTML element is a generic inline container for phrasing content which does not inherently represent anything. Means that it's actually a non-semantic element. It should be used only when no other semantic element is appropriate. A span is very much like a div element, but div is a block level, whereas the span is an inline level element. We can have an example. Let's say if we have a paragraph and only a few words are supposed to be colored. We do not want the whole paragraph to be in a particular color. So that time, we can wrap that specific word inside the span tag, and we can give it some class, or we can use the style attribute in order to color that specific word. We already have one example here. We have a paragraph, and you can see that there are certain words in this paragraph which are already wrapped inside the span tag, and some class is given to it. We have basil and then pine nuts, and further we have garlic. So all these have been wrapped inside the span, and the styling applied to this class, that is ingredient, its color is red. So means within this paragraph, these words which have been applied the ingredient class, so they will be colored as red. So let's do this practical now. I have already created one file named lecture7a.html. We are going to include one div within which one h1 tag will be included and some text: welcome to ABC Enterprises. So let's say we have this text, and in order to color this div, we need to come to the style tag inside the head tag and write down div selector. We'll give some background color to this. Let's say it's aqua. And further, we are going to give it some height. Height, let's say we are going to include 50 px. And let's first of all see the output. So this is visible to us this way. And let's text align it by using text align center. Text align center. So the text has been centrally aligned. Now, the task is that we need to color this ABC. Will there be any way to color only this word? Now, if you are writing here, for example, if you write here, color, and that we already know it is going to change the color of the complete heading. But we just want this ABC to be in red color. So that time, span tag will come into picture. So what we will do, inside the heading, this ABC will be wrapped within the span tag. So we will take this ABC to the span tag and then come to the style tag, write here span. So whatever the text is available inside the span will be given the style. So color, let's say if I write as red, and you can see that that specific text has been applied with red color. Now, even if you try to think about some other way to color this text, there would not be much choice left with us. The reason for this is that we need only an inline element here. We cannot use any block level element. You cannot wrap ABC within a div tag or any heading tag or a paragraph tag or any other block level element. I'll give you one example here. I'm going to wrap ABC within a paragraph. And I'll change the span tag to a paragraph. Though it is coloring it as red, but our purpose is not served because it's not in the same line. As we know that paragraph is a block level element. Any inline element will work here. So, do we have any other inline element that can serve our purpose? Well, you need to think about it first. According to me, any text formatting element can also work here. Text formatting elements like I, EM, B, strong. So these tags can be used. Let's say if I'm changing this to I, and I'll change this one also to I. This is serving a purpose of coloring the text. But let's say I do not want to format my text at all. I do not want it to be bold or italics or underlined, strike through. I do not want it. Just a simple text and need to color it. Then definitely span tag only will come into picture. Let's now proceed to the next topic, working with background properties. In this, we are going to cover total 11 CSS background properties. So one at a time, we are going to cover around 3 to 4 properties. So let's start. Background color sets the background color of an element. Then background image, it will set one or more background images on an element. Then we have background blend mode. It will set how an element's background images should blend with each other and with the element's background color. Well, you will understand this when we will implement once. And then background repeat. It will set how background images are repeated. A background image can be repeated along the horizontal and the vertical axis, or may not be repeated at all. So let's implement them in order to have a better understanding about all these properties: color, image, blend mode, and repeat. Let's start now. I have already created a file, lecture7b.html. We will start inserting the div nested with h1 tag and including a random text, let's say hello there. Now we are going to provide this hello there, that is this div tag, some background color. Already we have used the background color property multiple times. So let's start by writing the div selector and give background color as yellow. Let's make this right now a square. The background color now should be visible as a square to us. So I'll give it some height and width, 400 px by 400 px. Yes, so now the width and height have been changed to 400 by 400. The next property is background image. I'm going to comment this code, copy and then comment, and further I'll be pasting this code and change the background color property to background image. For the image, we need to include the URL, as we already have done this in the previous lectures. And we need to include the path, or if the image is already available in the folder, you can specify the name of the image as well. So we already have an image, solar.jpg. And after saving the file, you will be able to see this, a square background image. And over this image, you have some text. The text is not visible, so I will be using a style attribute inside the h1 and give the light color, or let's say white color. The text is now visible to us. Now, after using the background image property, another related property to the background image is background blend mode. In order to use the background blend mode, we need a second image also. So kind of we will be merging the two images. In order to have the second image, put a comma and write down the URL of the second image. The second image also I am already having in this directory. I'll first of all show you how this looks like. So this is the that image that we are now going to include. So now we need to write down back.jpg. A second image is also included, but right now it's not visible to us. We need a way to combine these two images. So we will be using now background blend mode. And you can see that there are certain suggestions that you're getting. These are the different types of blend modes that you can include. For now, I'll be using lighten. Once you save your file, it will give you a filtered effect. It will give you a feeling as if the two images have been merged or have been blended. Now you will be able to see both the images at the same time. This is called as background blend mode. Next property is background repeat property. In order to work with the background repeat property, we will be including the background image to the body. And for now, I'm commenting this code. After commenting this code, I will be applying the background image to the body and give background image. Let's say it's the same, that is I'll be using back.jpg. Need to give the URL also, URL back.jpg. So what is the effect that you are able to see now? If I maximize the browser, you see repeated images. We do not want this. Let's say I just simply want to have the original image as the background image, just the original size. Right now it is being repeated. In order to avoid this, you can use the background repeat property. So write background repeat. Now it depends on you that whether you want to repeat it on the x-axis or on the y-axis, or you do not want to repeat at all. First of all, I'll cover no repeat. So if you write here no repeat, save the file, it will include just the original size of the image. We are not providing any kind of size here. Second is that if you want it to repeat but only on either the horizontal or the vertical axis. Let's say now if I write here repeat x, and you will be able to see the images repeated only on the x-axis and not on the y-axis. Similarly, if you want it to be repeated on only the y-axis, then you can see that it is repeated only on the y-axis. So this is how we use these four properties. Let's proceed with the next background properties. Background origin. This background property sets the background's origin. Origin here means the starting point. So the starting point can be either from the border or just inside the border or inside the padding. Then we have background size. This will set the size of the background image. So you can either have it as a natural size background image or stretched, or you can constrain it to fit the available space. Then we have background attachment property. It will set whether a background image position is fixed or not. Let's say if you have a lot of text on the web page and there is a background image behind the text. In order to see the whole text, you need to scroll your browser. You need to scroll your web page. So by the time the text is being scrolled, if the background image behind the text is fixed, like it's not moving, then it means that the value of the background attachment has been set to fixed. By default, it will always be in scroll mode. Then we have the background position. This is able to set the initial position for each background image. The position is relative to the position layer set by the background origin. Let's now implement all these properties one by one. all the previous background properties have been commented, and we will start by using the background origin property. We have to now style this div in a different way by using border property and giving it a thick border. I'm going to give it a double border, style as double border, and color as green. So we are able to get a 40px, a thick double green border. And since the background origin property is related to background image, so we will now include a background image. And we are going to include the same image, that is solar.jpg. And we also want this image, that this image should not be repeated in any way. So that is why we are also going to use background repeat and no repeat. So it's not repeated at all right now. And another thing, let's say we also want to give it some padding. For better understanding, let's give it 20px padding as well. Right, so some padding is given. What do you see right now? That once I used the background repeat as no repeat, the background image is starting from this inside border. Because this style is having double border, we will have to specify that whether we want to start the background image from, let me zoom in, whether we want to start the image from this point or from this point or maybe from this point. So if you want to color only the content, then the value should come content box. If you want this to start from the inner border, then it will come as the padding box. And if you want the background image to start from the outer border, then it will be border box. So let's write down the property background origin. And first of all, I'm going to write border box. So you can see that it has started, the origin, the starting point is from the outer border. And if I change this to the padding box, only the padding part has been colored. Only the padding part has been given the background image. Further, if I use the content box, and now only the content part has been covered. So this way we use the background origin property with the combination of other properties. The next background property is background size. We need to comment this, and we are going to apply the background image to the body tag. So I'll start applying the background image URL, and the image that I'm going to test is back.jpg. We got the repeated images. We do not want these repeated images, so that is why we are going to use the background repeat as no repeat. Once the images are not repeated anymore, we can now start using our actual property, that is the background size. So background size can have three values. First one is auto. Auto is the default value. You don't have to explicitly specify auto, and you can see that the output doesn't change. The second value you can have is contain. A contain value always show you the complete image, but it depends what is the content that you have inserted. Since we haven't defined any height in this, no height property is defined, so the height of the background image will be considered according to whatever the content is there. Now if I delete this hello there content, the size of the image reduces. Further, if I remove this h1 tag, the size of the image reduces. Once again, it will reduce further. Now if I give some height to the body, let's say if I give the height as 100 VH. VH stands for viewport height. VH is also a unit in CSS to specify sizes, just like px, that is pixel. So once you have specified the 100 VH, so now what will happen, that the image size is contained according to the size of the browser. So if I increase the size of the browser, you will see that the size of the image increases. It is complete, but yes, it is not always going to be the full size. Full size means that completely according to the size of the browser. So let's maximize it. You see that some part is left from here, some gap is here, that is a white portion is left. So it always doesn't mean that it is going to span completely over the browser. This is called as contain, and this also depends on the original size of your image. Further, we can have that is cover. Now cover is very easy to understand. Cover means that without any exception it is going to give you a full size background image. Very useful when you have a small sized image but you want to show it as a full size background. But now we can now change the image. Let's say if I change the image to solar.jpg. By changing the image to solar.jpg, and if I cover this background size as cover, what do you see? That the size of the image is already so large that it doesn't require any background size property. But if required, you can use it by either using contain. So you can see that the contain is also showing us a full image. But yes, as I told previously, that it is not going to, doesn't matter that it spans across the complete browser. So contain means it will show you the full image. And you can also use for this image cover. Cover doesn't make any difference here. Already the size of the image is too large. Next property is background attachment. For using background attachment, we need background image and background repeat as no repeat. For understanding the background attachment property, we need some text inside the body tag. And I have pasted some text inside the body tag, and we need to make this text visible on the background image. So that is why I'll be taking the color of the text as red. Now you can see that the text is visible on the background image. Let's maximize the browser. Now let's start scrolling. What you see is that the background image is also being scrolled along with the text. Background image is over till here, but the text is still there. The text is till almost here. Now let's say we do not want this background image to scroll along with the text. For this, we'll be using the background attachment. Background attachment. One is scroll, which is default. Like if you scroll, then the background image will scroll along with the text. Second, if you want to have fixed background image, you do not want this to scroll along with the text, then you can use a fixed background image. So now you can see that there is a lot of text on this web page. I'll maximize it. A lot of text is there over this web page, but the background image is fixed. Next property is background position. Let's copy this and comment. Now all we need to know is that using the background position property, you can set the position of your image. You can have it at the left hand side or in the center or right hand side. So right now our image has been aligned in a default manner. Let's write down background position. Background position. First of all, I'm going to mention center. You can see that the image was actually so large, only the central part of the image has been chosen as the image, as the background image. Similarly, if you write here right, so only the right portion of the image has been chosen as the background image, and same is for left. But let's say if the size of the image is not too large. So we already have one such image, that is back.jpg. So can you see that the small sized image, the default size of the image is so small. So what this background position property has done, it has simply aligned this image to the right hand side of the browser. And same manner, if you mention here center, then it will be positioned in the center of the browser. Normally, it's not possible to specify the background image in the center of the web page without using the background position property. Related to the background position, we have two more properties. First one is background position X. This sets the initial horizontal position for each background image. The position is relative to the position layer set by the background origin. Now, if you want the image to be aligned centrally or on the left hand side or right hand side, but on the x-axis, then you can use background position X property. Similarly, we also have background position Y property, which sets the initial vertical position for each background image. And the position is relative to the position layer set by the background origin. And the final property that we are having is background clip. This sets whether an element's background extends underneath its border box, padding box, or content box. The background clip property is pretty much like the background origin property. Now let's implement all these. For this, let's comment this piece of code as we don't require this anymore. So we are now going to style our div tag in the same way as we did for the background origin. We'll use border as 40px double green, and we are going to use the background color pink. Since background clip property works better with background color, so that is why we are using background color. And we need some padding. Let's say it's 20px. After the 20px padding, we see this output, and you can also see that the background color is starting right from the border box. So in order to modify this, we can use the background clip. Background clip. So first of all, we are going to use the border box, and as we know that the output will not change because already it is by default the border box. Further, we can change it to the padding box, and the padding box has been colored. And after this, we can use the content box. Using the content box, you will notice that only the content part has been covered. Now, after covering the background clip property, it becomes important for us to know the difference between background origin and background clip. Background origin mainly works with the images, and background clip can work both with images and colors. But right now we have just inserted color. If you remember one more thing, that when we use the background origin, that time the lower portion of the box was being covered with the image, even though the starting point was always correct. The starting point, even if you use the padding box or the content box, the lower portion is always covered. But here, the lower portion is not being covered with the pink color. In order to understand this, let's get back to the background origin property once again. We are now once again back to the background origin property, and the value specified here is content box. You must notice and understand that the background origin property always tells us about the starting point and doesn't tell us anything about the end point. So right now we are using content box. It means that it has to start from the content box, right from here. But the lower portion is going till the border box. So we need to avoid this. We need to clip this out by using the background clip property. So let's start by writing background clip. And right now it depends what is your requirement. For the time being, if I write the padding box, you will notice that only the padding portion has been covered. And the image that was being covered here till the border box has now been removed, has been clipped out. Similarly, if I now write here content box, so only the content portion will be covered, the rest will be clipped. Writing the border box here doesn't make any difference. We have now approached the end of the lecture. So you can use the following references for the topics covered in this lecture. And these are the program links. For div and span tag, you can refer to this link, and for the background properties, you can refer to this link. That's all for this lecture.